Welcome to the Boxing Gossip channel. Quick reaction video to today's weigh-in. David Haye versus Tony Bellew. No major surprises from this weigh-in. David Haye turned up a chiseled, rippling Adonis. Tony Bellew turned up resembling his self-appointed new nickname, the Fat Scouser from Liverpool. Both guys slightly lighter than their last fight. I think David Haye was about 4 pounds lighter. I think Tony Bellew was around 3 pounds lighter. David Haye, perhaps not as light as some people were expecting. I think he came in at about 220. You know, back in the day that he was fighting Vlad, he was probably around the 210 mark. But, you know, we've seen David Haye a lot heavier in some of his comeback fights against Damori and Jar Jar. He was 227, 224, etc. So, you know, Haye's lost a few pounds, but I think his body's just naturally thickened out as he's got older. And, you know, now he's in his mid to late 30s. Realistically, it's probably, you know, it's probably not right that people should expect him to be at the same weight he was when he fought Vladimir Klitschko. God, that fight was nearly 7 years ago now. It's amazing how time flies. But, you know, David Haye's just one of those guys who naturally has a very chiseled physique. You know, we've seen David Haye with abs as a cruiserweight. We've seen him with abs at 227 pounds. You know, he's someone who is naturally a very muscular, very toned physique and has kind of been able to maintain that to a large extent, despite the fact that his weight has fluctuated. I would say, to me, he looks leaner than he did last time round. He looks like there's less on him. He does look very defined. But just as David Haye has that genetic to sort of naturally look very chiseled, very athletic, Tony Bellew is kind of the complete antithesis. I mean, Bellew weighing in at 210 pounds does look very, very fat on the scales. But Tony Bellew always looked fat as a cruiserweight. To be honest, even when Tony Bellew was making 175 pounds as a light heavyweight, he wasn't the most ripped out, chiseled physique even back then. So he's just one of those guys who doesn't have that genetic. Clearly, Bellew has trained very, very hard. Clearly, he's in very good shape. He's actually lighter than he was last time round, but he's just never going to be that guy who has that kind of chiseled men's health type body. You know, as I say, even when he was, 35 pounds lighter than he was today at light heavyweight, you know, he didn't have that men's health physique. So he's just not one of those guys, and David Haye is. What does it mean? Well, possibly it means very little. You know, David Haye turned up last time with all the muscles in the world. Did it change the course of the fight? Absolutely not. You know, Tony Bellew turned up looking heavy. For me, Bellew did show signs of punching himself out late on in the fight, but only at a stage when David Haye was diminished substantially as a threat in the fight. So hard to know what kind of difference it makes. I guess the fact that both of them are slightly lighter than first time round is a positive. From a fan perspective, it probably could suggest that this could be a more explosive, athletic fight, where both guys are potentially a tiny bit sharper. But these are very, very big guys. You know, when you're talking about big guys, 3 or 4 pound weight fluctuations are not as big a deal as, you know, a 3 or 4 pound weight fluctuation in a weight class 5 or 6 classes below. You know, it's just one of those things. So, did I take too much from the weigh-in? Not really. Haye is clearly in tip-top physical condition, but all the muscles under the sun won't help him if his body gives out, and if his Achilles gives out, or if his shoulder pops out, or one of those things. So, you know, I'm buzzing for this fight. You guys know, as the fight has got closer, I've been getting more and more and more excited for it. And, you know, it's Friday night now. The long weekend is upon us. 3 days off work. And for me, the highlight of the weekend is definitely going to be seeing this fight and, you know, seeing what transpires. On a more negative note, you know, we talked about 3 or 4 pounds not being a big deal in the heavyweight division. Unfortunately, 3 or 4 pounds is a very big deal in the bantamweight division. I am, of course, referring to Paul Butler, who inexplicably weighed in heavy for his fight against Rodriguez for a world title. You know, real surprise here. I understand Butler was nearly 3.5 pounds overweight and didn't attempt to take that weight off. Mind you, realistically, I guess 3.5 pounds is too much to take off if you're missing weight first time round. But you know, he's come in 3.5 pounds heavy, and he hasn't been able to make weight. Now, for me, this is a very bad look. This was a title chance for Paul Butler, a chance to become a world champion again, and he's given that chance up on the scales. You know, a huge disappointment. How many boxers out there would kill for the opportunity to get a world title shot? And he's blown his chances in that fashion. Really, I don't actually think the fight should happen. I think it's unfair on Rodriguez. You know, the fact he's 3.5 pounds heavy does suggest there's problems with the Butler camp. It does suggest he isn't coming into this fight in good condition. You know, and that may, if anything, prove to be an advantage for Rodriguez. But I don't like the look of a guy so substantially overweight coming in, you know, for a fight. I think it's a bad look for boxing. And I think it's, you know, if someone gets hurt, this is the kind of thing that gives the sport a bad name. We have these weight classes for a reason, fundamentally. Butler is kind of an odd character to be missing weight as well. You know, he's small for that weight class. He really is small for a bantamweight. So how he's missing weight, you know, I really don't know. And this really was a great opportunity for him. I think this was the belt that Ryan Burnett vacated. You know, maybe Eddie Hearn was able to make way for Paul Butler because Burnett and Butler were in the same stable. This is a chance that may not come up again. You know, it's unfair on Rodriguez. Rodriguez probably still has to take the fight, given that he still gets the opportunity to fight for the world title and fulfill his dreams. Yeah, but if Rodriguez loses tomorrow night, if Butler gets the victory, there won't be too many boxing fans rushing to give Paul Butler credit. You know, a lot of people will be blaming this weight because, you know, 3.5 pounds doesn't sound like a lot of weight, but it is a lot of weight when you're that small. And you've also got to think about the effect of draining yourself down for that last 3.5 pounds. You know, Rodriguez maybe didn't eat supper last night. Maybe he's dehydrated to make the weight. Maybe it's been real tough for him. Whereas Butler's probably not had to go through that same stress, given how heavy he's weighed in for the fight. Disappointing. Look, Joe Gallagher's become one of the biggest whipping boys in boxing. And, you know, it's kind of easy to make a video slagging off Joe Gallagher. But it does seem to be an absolute trend with Joe Gallagher fighters. You know, Paul Smith missed weight against Andre Ward. You know, if I recall, he didn't miss weight by a pound or two. He missed weight substantially. Liam Smith missed weight against Liam Williams, you know, when they fought. Again, another bad look. Now you've got, obviously, Paul Butler missing weight. I appreciate Scott Quigg was no longer with Paul Gallagher, with Joe Gallagher even, but Scott Quigg, another one of the ex-Joe Gallagher fighters who missed weight recently. It's bizarre. You know, whether all of this can be blamed on Joe Gallagher, I don't know. Maybe the camp is thinking if you're going to miss weight, you may as well miss weight by a mile rather than miss weight by an inch. So I don't know if that's their attitude, but it seems that not only are their fighters missing weight, but their fighters are missing weight by a good margin. So it's very disappointing. I assume the fight between Butler and Rodriguez is still going ahead. Whether or not it will do, you know, I'm keen to see. I'm keen to see. But it's a bad look, really. If Butler goes and gets blown out of there, we'll assume that his training camp was a farce, and that's why he came in so heavy. If Butler goes out there and looks fantastic and wins, he won't get too much credit, and he's blown the opportunity to fight for a world title on a big Sky Sports pay-per-view, you know, on a bill that will probably be watched by 1 million people tomorrow. You know, really bad stuff. And, you know, I presume there's something going on behind the scenes. I presume there's injuries or training camp disasters. I'm sure there's mitigating circumstances, but not a good look for boxing. You know, other than that, I saw John Ryder and Jamie Cox, both of them looking in good nick. Joe Joyce and Lenroy Thomas. You know, Lenroy, I was interested to see how he weighed in because Lenroy's a guy I've seen weigh in heavy and light before. Lenroy looked in good shape, not as good a shape as Joe Joyce. You know, he's someone who's clearly taking the sport very seriously and in tip-top condition. Yeah, but those guys weighed in, and of course it was all about the main event. David Haye versus Tony Bellew. No huge dramas, no right hooks, no pushing and shoving, no kissing, you know, just a good old-fashioned stare down. Eddie Hearn saying, David Haye, promising to drag it late with Tony Bellew. Yeah, I don't really buy into that. If David Haye lands on Bellew round 1, he'll look to take him out there and then. That's my take. Give me your thoughts in the comment section below. What did you glean from today's weigh-ins? Let me know any takeaways you got from it. As always, many thanks for tuning in. Please hit the subscribe button. Please hit the thumbs up button if you're new. Appreciate you guys checking out what I'm doing.